and welcome to another episode of BizTech on Ghanaweb TV. My name is Stella Jijam Suli. Today on BizTech, we're going to talk about the stock market, the global stock market to be precise, because a few days ago, the global stock market witnessed some crash because of the emergence of a new AI software system. So we're going to delve into that, and I have here with me Ralph Gibbs. He's founder and CEO of CD-Rate. CD-Rate is a fintech that aggregates exchange rates and fuel prices across the Ghanaian financial market. And so, hi Ralph.
Hi Stella.
Today we are talking about DeepSeek.
Yeah.
And before that, what is DeepSeek? I know I have a fair idea about what it is. I know it's an AI and it's new. That's where a lot of people may not, have an idea about it. And that's why we are having this conversation today. So what is DeepSeek?
Right. So DeepSeek, like you rightly said, it's a new AI model that was released from China. And I think it was released over the weekend. And what basically shocked most people was how much they claim it cost them to make it. So it was very cheap and affordable for them to create it. And they actually didn't price it. It wasn't made for sale. It was open sourced. What that means is they made the code available and they actually published the report, and anyone can look at it and copy it and basically build on top of it. And this is in contrast to the ones we are used to. So you've heard of like ChatGPT from OpenAI. Yeah. Those ones are paid and they are more closed. We don't really understand what's going on behind there. And those ones, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to create them. But DeepSeek achieved something similar, but at a much affordable price.
Okay, at a much affordable price. So we are hearing that it's because it's affordable. That's why it's led to the crash of the stock market.
Yes.
Isn't that supposed to be a good thing?
Yeah, so that's right. So it's two things. So it's good for consumers. So that's people like you and I, and some developers, so people in the technology industry. What it means is basically, if you want to build an AI model or build on top of one, you can use the DeepSeek model and get similar outputs as ChatGPT or OpenAI. But it's bad for ChatGPT and other companies in the AI industry because what it means is they invested billions of dollars. So like I said, OpenAI put in $100 million and even more. They've raised about $18 billion. And they actually announced a project called Project Stargate where they are looking for $500 billion to invest in AI. So most people's thinking was, okay, to build a good AI model like ChatGPT, you need to spend billions and billions of dollars on chips and infrastructure. But then all of a sudden over the weekend, we hear a company from China just released, spending just $6 million. So it made a lot of people get shocked that, wait, so it's not about putting in more money. Someone is actually doing it for less and they're actually putting it out for free. So that's what led to the shock.
Okay, so I saw some people try to use DeepSeek. Actually, I've not tried it because I still have my reservations. Because how can you come like in 2 or 3 days and already things are, going bad and we are seeing a dip in the stock market and all of that. So that is the only reason I haven't tried it.
Right. Yeah.
But apart from that, I don't think it's bad because if it's affordable, why not? Because these days, anything that you want to access on the internet, you'd have to pay for it to be able to enjoy premium version of it. So what are the key, features to look out for, or that will even make someone attracted to DeepSeek?
Sure. So speaking of why you've not even used this, so some of the reasons why some people are not attracted to it is because they felt privacy concerns. So because it's from China. And honestly, my personal opinion is it's a company from China. Where else do you expect them to store the data? Of course, they'll store it in China. But some people feel hesitant because we are used to, or if it's in UK stored in Europe or it's in US stored in US, it feels safer. But then when we've come to associate China with, or if it's going to China, it's sort of bad because we don't know how they're going to manage it. Exactly. Yeah. But that's wrong because what they are doing, they are actually not doing anything out of the ordinary, different from what the US companies are doing. But that's what a lot of people are hesitant about.
So ChatGPT is from US?
Yes, so ChatGPT is from OpenAI and they are based in US. Yes. And DeepSeek is from a Chinese hedge fund. It actually started as a hedge fund. So just to take you back a bit on how DeepSeek started. So the founder started it. He started a hedge fund company where basically what they're doing is they automate. So you know how you trade on the stock market, you tell your stockbroker, oh, I want to buy these shares and that shares. There's also this thing called automated trading, where it's high frequency trading, and it's basically bots buying and selling shares on the stock exchange. So they started with that, and it was integrated with AI, and this was somewhere around 2016. So they've been working with AI for a while, and I think they have around $8 to $18 billion under management. That's how much they're investing using these AI trained bots. And somewhere in 2023, they decided, oh, let's just try this large language model, which is what we know as ChatGPT, those kind of things. And they started, and they spent just $6 million, and they were able to do this. So that's also part of the reason why they put it out there for free, open source. It's because that's not their main business. It was just a side. It's not even a side hustle. It's just a side project that they did. In terms of why people be attracted to it, it's because they actually benchmarked it, and there are several tests they do. I wouldn't bore you with the details, but they test it with things like natural language. So when you interact with it, how does its output look in terms of how you expect a human being to respond to the question you asked or whatever you told it to do? And it actually slightly beats ChatGPT's latest model. So by latest model, I'm not talking about the free ChatGPT that's available to everyone. So there's a $20 per month subscription ChatGPT has, and that's the latest model, which is called 4.0 mini. And they actually perform as well as that, and it's free. Now you might ask, so how are they making money? Why would they do it that way? The reason why it's attractive to people is you can also use their API and also build based on that, and it's way cheaper. I think 10 to 20 times cheaper to use that model than ChatGPT, but then it performs almost as well as ChatGPT. So that's why some people...
Are you sure? Have you tried it?
Yes. So I haven't tried the developer version. I've tried the user interface, which is exactly everyone. So the one that you just type in, which you don't have to be a developer. I've tried that one. It actually does really well. The only downside is actually a few days ago it went down. So they actually suffered a cyber attack, and for that reason they were forced to take the service down. I think even right now it's currently down.
It's still not working.
But then, yeah, I tried it, and the reason why I used it, the reason why I'm attracted to it is, if you've tried ChatGPT, you know there's a limit on how much you can use. So, for example, uploading files and PDFs, there's a limit on how many you can upload. But with this DeepSeek, it was open and it was free, and there were no such limits. So that's why some people will be attracted to it.
Okay. So if you ask DeepSeek a question and you ask ChatGPT a question, what is the assurance or the accuracy rates like?
Right.
Is it almost the same?
Yeah, so
or one is even slightly better than the other?
I think if you compare the two, it's roughly the same. The difference is not that significant where you go like, this is terrible. So it's like, if you ask someone what's 2 times 2, and maybe how they calculate it is different from how you'd calculate it. Like there might be differences, but at the end of the day, you still end up with the same result. And speaking of how you end up with the same result, it would be good to touch on how ChatGPT differs from DeepSeek, basically how they work. So a good analogy to use is, and this very simplified version, but a good way to understand it is, ChatGPT works like it's an exam. You are preparing for an exam. ChatGPT studies the whole course, textbook, presentation, it studies everything, knows everything, crams everything in its head, and it answers
for you.
So it answers based on that. Now, what DeepSeek does is, it actually knows things people are more curious about, how they would want it to be answered. So instead of it learning everything, what it does is it does things in batches. And how that works is, for example, you are preparing for this same exam. Instead of studying everything, you look at past questions that have been asked before, how they were answered, how they were marked, and that's how it does it. So it's more efficient in that way. So instead of cramming everything, it's more efficient, and that's what makes it cheaper to run and more efficient. But it still achieves the same output. We both get A star or A plus, but then how we studied is different.
Okay, talk about it being cheaper. How do you think they managed to, develop such an advanced, AI with just $6 million?
So that's the surprising part, and a lot of American companies or American tech critics are saying, because it's from China, we don't actually know how much it costs them to make it, because, mind you, there's a restriction on American companies selling technology to Chinese companies. So NVIDIA, which is the biggest, the most popular chip maker when it comes to AI products, they actually can't sell their latest chips to Chinese companies. So people were surprised. So how are they able to make something more efficient or as good as what OpenAI is doing? What it turns out to be is, they claim they are using older models, older chips which they could have purchased, and that's what they use. So first of all, those chips are cheaper. But then what they did was, it was like, making juice out of the lemons you have or the oranges you have. And basically they had older equipment and they were able to make AI based on that. So because of that, when you bring it to the newer chips, it's even more efficient. So that's how they were able to achieve it. In terms of how they were able to do it cheaper, there's so many theories out there. We don't know for sure. But then they claim they are very experienced in AI. That's why they were able to do it. And they actually published the research report. So like one of the reasons was what we discussed about preparing for an exam. Instead of learning everything, which is expensive, they just learn the key things that they know people will care about. And that's what they focused on. But aside that, I think it was, we just have to take them for what they say, that they were just better at managing the efficiency of their development.
Okay, so do they, plan on selling it? Like
So,
open source or
yeah.
sell it to the global market?
Yeah, so currently it's open source. The only parts where it's monetized is if you're a developer and you've automated it. So it's not a nice interface. Let's say you're integrating it into an app you've built. So an example is, let's say you have a travel planner app and people manually put on trips and then people can book trips. What you can do is you can put in AI, where the AI looks at user profiles, it looks at people's profiles, and it can generate trips curated, personalized to them. So this doesn't require a human being to be doing it. You can automate it. Now that's a use case, and for such a use case, you wouldn't go and be typing on DeepSeek's website, what should I do for Stella, for example. You use the API, and that's where for that one, you have to pay for it. So that's the only way it's monetized. But in terms of the daily use, they actually open sourced it, and it's available for free, which is what led to the stock market sell-off here. So like a few days ago, AI-related companies lost about $1 trillion in terms of market cap. Yeah. And NVIDIA was the biggest one. They lost close to $600 billion, about 17% of their market price.
Share.
Exactly. Like it dropped. So their market price dropped by about 16%, 16 to 17%. And basically it was because someone is doing it for cheap, and we're expecting, so like how OpenAI was developing, if you want to get better, buy more chips from NVIDIA, and that's how you make better ones. So everyone thought that's the way to go about it. But when you found out, no, someone just did it for cheaper, less chips, it's like, then NVIDIA is probably overvalued. We don't need as much NVIDIA stock as we thought we would need.
Okay. So all this may sound, a bit complicated to someone who is not tech savvy. So we are going for a quick break. When we come back, you now talk to me like I'm 10 years old and I'm interested in what DeepSeek is about, ChatGPT and the whole AI, brouhaha is about. So we'll be back after this break. You're still watching Best Tech here on Ghanaweb TV. My name is Stella Jijomsugi, and I'm still here with Ralph. And before that break, I was asking Ralph to explain to me, as a 10-year-old, how this affects me as an investor or someone who is interested in the stock market. And so, tell me.
Sure. So I'll take it from two angles. So first off, as a 10-year-old, how to understand it. So I would say ChatGPT or OpenAI, or these large language models, as they're technically called, the easiest way to understand it is it's your friend. You can ask anything. So, as a 10-year-old, or kids always ask questions, even things that should be obvious to them. Imagine ChatGPT as the person who would answer any question and they know about everything. Like, it's not like your parents where they don't know, but they'll pretend they know. ChatGPT actually knows about it and it can answer, and you can actually tell it, respond to me like I'm a 10-year-old, and it would do that. So questions you can ask, it goes everything from social media, content creation, content calendar, even in healthcare, you can use AI to detect things. And like I said, in finance, you can use it for trading. So for example, you can set an AI to check, okay, if the exchange rates reach 16 cities and this happens and the weather is going bad, sell this company or buy this company, like basically automate things, and it could do all of that for you. So that's understanding as a 10-year-old. Basically, you can ask it anything and it can respond. Obviously, you can't do things like, you can't ask it for money and things like that. It's never going to do that.
Can it read emotions?
It can't, but it can fake it. It can pretend like it reads emotions. So it's more like your friend with no emotions, but they can be there for you and they can be knowledgeable, but it can't read emotions. It can pretend, you can ask it to be more emotional, but it doesn't feel emotions. So from the investment point of view, so as an investor, why you should care about this is, so there are 2 points of views. Either you are an investor, you've invested in companies, or you are new to the stock market and you think AI is the next big thing, you want to get involved. So if you think AI is the next big thing, you'd have to, like, first of all, there's no financial advice, but then you'd have to look, are you going downstream as in those creating the components for AI, or you're going upstream as in those creating the final end products of AI? So an example of end products is ChatGPT, or in Google has Gemini, and Apple has Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
If you're interested in those things, then you can invest in your typical companies, because almost everyone is putting AI, they're slapping AI
Even
into
WhatsApp
everything they do.
has.
Exactly. WhatsApp has
Meta.
it up there.
Yeah.
Meta is putting it into all their products. So if you believe, okay, the end products are going to do well, then you can invest in those companies. So invest in Meta, Apple, and your typical big tech giants. But then if you want to go more downstream, as in the components that build AI, then you look at companies like NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is the one that creates the chips. So the chips are the thing, is basically the brain behind AI. So it's literal rooms full of chips that the semiconductors that they train the AI on and the AI runs on, and that's why it's very expensive. If you think, so it's kind of like the fuel for AI. If you think that's where you want to go, then you invest in companies like NVIDIA. So that's how I'll take it. If you have an existing company, to let's say you have a startup, you might want to look into seeing how you can put AI into your products, because if you don't, other companies are going to do that. And an example is you have these grocery companies, so let's say Instacart, or let's say how we have Jumia, etc.
Yeah.
If Jumia doesn't incorporate AI into their products, ChatGPT is already doing it. So a few days ago, they released a model called Operator, and basically what it does is, same way of using ChatGPT, but this time it's unleashed and it can go onto the internet and browse on your behalf. So let's say you want to buy tickets on whatever your favorite online ticket platform. You want to buy Black Sherif tickets for like Zama Disco. Exactly. You could say, okay, check if the weather is going to be good on that day, and if so and so person is going to perform according to the flyer, purchase 2 tickets for me. It could do that, find the tickets online, basically look online and purchase it for you. So that's like the next step OpenAI is looking at, which DeepSeek doesn't do, the others don't do. OpenAI is sort of the first to do that. If you feel something like that is a threat to your business, or as an investor, it's something you want to get involved in, you might want to invest more into things like that or build something similar to that.
Okay, so do you think this could, force American AI companies to maybe lower their costs and innovate in the very next short to medium term, like as fast as they could?
Yeah, I think that's what made this whole thing a big deal, because especially American companies, they were leading this whole AI race and they got very scared. So like we said, the Chinese company was able to do it more efficiently at a cheaper price, and they released it for free. And actually, the stock market, what happened was most of the AI-related companies dropped, but a company like Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, their stock price did not drop.
Yeah.
The reason is because their AI model is actually open source. What that means is they develop the AI, spend money on it, and they just open it to everyone that, hey, everyone, you can use it for free. You don't have to pay them. OpenAI, on the other hand, even though they started as OpenAI, they were supposed to be the open one. They are actually more closed, and it's very ironic because the Chinese company DeepSeek is a hedge fund, which is they invest in companies. They are doing things for profit. They actually released their model for free, but OpenAI, that's supposed to be a non-profit, actually released theirs, and it's actually one of the most expensive ones. So yeah, it's very ironic. And how they responded on the stock market was the stock prices dropped. So like we said, NVIDIA stock price, they lost about 600 billion just on Monday, a few days ago, and the other companies lost about $400 billion in total. So over $1 trillion was lost. So that's how much is affecting.
That's actually the first ever in history.
Yeah, it was definitely a big deal. And US tech companies have not had something like this, where something just comes up over the weekend and you lose over $1 trillion, to the point where it was even affecting some cryptos, because for whatever reason, people were just panicking.
Yeah.
So that's how American companies are feeling about it. But then it's a good thing for consumers, because now it's forced ChatGPT had to actually start reducing their prices, and in the end, we benefit. So they are seeing there's a free version, which is almost as good. They can't be charging premiums anymore. They are forced to be more efficient. And like we said, because DeepSeek is open source, they can actually learn from them, which is the good thing. They can learn from them and apply their efficiencies to their own product.
Okay. Do you think this, shifts the balance of power in AI from the US to China?
I mean, the West in general, not just the US, have a lot of companies doing different things. So there's Anthropic AI, there's Gemini, there's Apple Intelligence. Different companies are releasing different models, and they all perform differently for different tasks. So for some of them, they are, there's one called Hugging Face. It's very good at generating images. There's also this one, Photo AI. It's very good at generating images of, let's say you upload your image and tell it, create an image of me in Bali, even though you've never been to Bali. It can create that and it looks realistic. So those are more specialized AIs. And there's a lot of those in America or in the West. So there's another one to PDF.ai. You upload a PDF, you can interact with it. The general ones like ChatGPT and DeepSeek can also do that, but not as well. They have their limitations. So all in all, I feel still the West has the dominance, and this is just the first step in China proving that, listen, we are also in the game, and it's basically like a battle of who can actually make the best one. But in terms of the ecosystem, all the way from presidency, Trump is supporting the tech companies, and there are so many companies involved in the West. It's more of a cohesive ecosystem, whereas in China, it's more of like one-off superstars. So we are yet to see who else comes out of China with something amazing.
Well, do you think this could, spark a shift in global AI funding and partnerships?
So that's interesting because most global AI financing has been to countries within where the funding is coming from. And what I mean by that is US investors are not bringing their money to Africa to invest in AI because they can do it at home. They don't need to bring it. That's the beauty about software and technology. You can build, so for example, Google search. Google can make their search so amazing that they don't need Ghanaians to improve it further. It will still be relevant to you. The local content only comes in to add final touches and make it more user-friendly and that kind of thing. But in terms of the core technology working, you don't need a Ghanaian to work at YouTube for them to make YouTube relevant to Ghanaians. So currently, there's not that much funding coming from outside unless our local governments and maybe Africa come together and we start investing more in AI. But then there's a lot at stake, which, yes, we should invest more. But currently, it doesn't look like we are spending as much as other countries.
Okay, so now let's look at long-term, economic implications of China's AI system on the global market.
Right.
Long-term, what are the economic implications for us?
I think economic implications, it's a wild guess. It could go either way because AI is actually something which has been in existence for a while. So if you look at TikTok, which is actually from China. So TikTok is from a company called Douyin. Douyin is the local Chinese, the original name for it, and TikTok is more of the Western or the international name for it. And their AI is one of the most amazing ones. If you use TikTok, you prefer the TikTok For You page to the Instagram Reels one. So that's an example of a use case of AI, but it's tailored to social media. And those are some cases where they're proving themselves to be competitive enough. But when it comes to something like long-form content, I think personally I prefer YouTube content. So it's more of like the balance is tilting away from the West and is becoming more balanced. But where I'm interested in is where Africa can also take part in it and we can also contribute and benefit from it.
Okay, so what role should governments play in ensuring that ethical and responsible, AI development is enhanced?
Yeah, that's a good question because AI started with, seriously, you can say unethical practices. So ChatGPT, for instance, they scraped almost the entire internet for everything they could find on the internet, from research reports to forums on Reddit, Twitter. So they scraped like literally your tweets trained AI. You might not believe it, but you contributed to training AI. And what that means is with technology, it's garbage in, garbage out. So until we've identified something and corrected it, the faults will still be in there. So aside those ethics, we still have to be conscious of how are we creating it to be used out there, because it's almost like a weapon we are putting out there, because now you can ask it something like you asked earlier on for a 10-year-old to understand how ChatGPT works. What that means is people who are younger and less experienced in certain things, like let's say the making of a bomb, which is something you wouldn't want people just creating.
To know.
You can go on
Yeah.
ChatGPT and ask it how to create a bomb. And they can do things like put in safeguards where it wouldn't teach you explicitly, but you can trick it, you can you say, oh no, it's for educational purposes. Or I've identified the bomb, how do I know it's a bomb? And sort of like reverse engineer it. So there are certain things which make it dangerous, but then the hope is that we invest more into understanding how it works and then putting safety rails around it.
Okay, so as a tech person in Ghana, should this, make you happy or make you, because I know that in the tech world, when things like this happen, it becomes like quite exciting, the adrenaline rush. Like, okay, this is something that we can, tap into and add to our already knowledge, the things that we already know to do. So how does this, feel to you?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me and my friends in the tech world, we're excited about it because we almost any new development to excite us, first of all. But then part of the reason why I'm excited about it is the fact that they made it open source. So what that does is for Africa, so like we mentioned funding earlier, we don't get as much funding in AI as people in the West. So what this does is once it's open source, our developers have access to it, and it's basically leveling the playing field. So it gives us an equal playing field because as long as I have access to the same models as you, I can develop something interesting. So it affects industries all the way from healthcare. So you could find out a Ghanaian has built an AI software that's able to detect cancer quicker or something like that. It makes it possible. Whereas opposed to if it was closed source, it wasn't open, we first have to develop the model before we can even dream about solving things like that. So that's the first part. The second part I'm excited about is in the finance world, not just in technology and finance. You have people asking things like, should I invest in the stock market? Should I invest in treasury bills?
Yeah.
It's things that it goes over people's heads. And of course, you'd ask family members or friends, or you see some financial influencer on TikTok talking about it. And it's like, when you go to something like ChatGPT, you can actually spill the tea, literally tell it everything about you, like your life conditions, your income, all those things you wouldn't want to tell other people. You can tell it and ask it for financial advice. And it might get some things wrong, but at least it will give you some common sense knowledge for you to make a common sense decision based on that. So I feel there are so many areas where you could look into it, and it's very exciting. Even something like applying for a job. Let's say you're applying for a remote job, you need to write a cover letter. You can literally just tell it a bit about yourself and tell it, write a cover letter to apply for this job, and just copy and paste what the job requirements are. You could tailor it, and you could ask it, point out certain things that don't work out for me, which I need to work on, or why this job isn't a good fit, and it'll point all of that out for you. And this is something you would have had to go for consulting and pay someone for, but this is ChatGPT. So there's so many exciting things about it, and I think it would be good if we tap into it.
Right. Thank you very much, Ralph. This has been an exciting and enlightening conversation on artificial intelligence and the stock market. So we come your way again with Best Tech. My name is Stella Jijom-Sugli, and I've been doing this with Ralph Gibbs. He's founder and CEO of CD Rates. Bye.